We're want to discuss today the upcoming election for the United States Senator and members of the House of Representatives and the judiciary, which is often forgotten, in Mississippi coming up this coming week, this Tuesday. The first thing I want to talk about just a second before we get into the numbers is 2 weeks ago, at the invitation of General Boyles, I went to Kuwait. We went up on the Iraqi-Kuwait border with 3,200 Mississippians that are members of the 155th, 3,200 Mississippians. The head of the brigade is a Hernando school teacher, and there are members of insurance people and there are conservation officers, and one that was an employee of the Secretary of State's office. It was good to see them all, the ones that were there. I met with over 1,000 of them to discuss absentee voting and casting their ballot. And while I was there, they electronically sent their request for ballots back to the circuit clerks. Some of them, one from Hattiesburg, I remember specifically, got his ballot back and cast his ballot from the sand dunes of Kuwait. Now, these men and women are today standing in those sand dunes, and they're not going to be home for Christmas. They're not going to be home for the Mississippi State game, or the Ole Miss game, or the Jackson State game, or any other football games. They have left their professional responsibilities, their jobs here, their families here, everything else that you and I normally have the privilege of doing. They're not coming back for a year. They won't be back till next April. They left in June from Fort Bliss. For that, when I went over there, I gave them, and we have sent another 500 of them, a Mississippi Misses You bracelet. This is Mississippi Misses You, and all of them started putting them on their arms to show that Mississippi, us, we back here that have the privilege of going and casting a ballot next Tuesday, the privilege of going and casting a ballot, not only is it a right, it's an obligation. And that obligation is to these people. These people who won't be here, whose families are here, whose car didn't start, whose child got sick, who had all the other problems that we have in Mississippi every day, they have them, except they're in 10 foreign countries. They're not just stationed in Kuwait, they're all over, and they're all over the bad places, defending Mississippi's right to cast a ballot. That's why this is so important. On election day, in all 1,700 precincts in Mississippi, there'll be a yellow ribbon. A yellow ribbon will be posted there to remember the thousands of Mississippians that are out in the sand dunes today defending our right to cast that ballot, and also our obligation to meet there. That obligation is to our fellow citizens, the men and women that are there right now in 10 foreign countries, all the bad places, defending our right to get in our truck and go drive down the highway and go to one of 1,700 precincts and spend 10 minutes to cast a ballot. For people who will determine their ability to get military hardware, whether or not we go to war, all the other things that members of the House and the Senate determine in our United States under our Constitution. So I want to start with that. I want everybody to remember that when we go forward about what we're doing in Mississippi. If any of you had been with me out on the Iraqi-Kuwait border with these men and women that are representing us, not one of you would miss the ballot. Every one of you would go get in your truck and cast a ballot next Tuesday. If you had seen what they do, the professionalism they do, never heard one negative comment. Nobody complaining. They're all out there, all in 10 different countries all over the Middle East doing their very dangerous jobs, and they're looking forward to coming home. And I want them to know Mississippi misses you. Primary turnout last year, 13.44%. New voter registrations, I don't know if y'all can all see that. We can move back a little bit. You can see a little bit better if I'm not in front of it. We're seeing some dramatic increases in voter registrations in Mississippi this year. And the applicable year, if you really look at it, is 2014. That was 4 years ago, the mid-year elections, not the gubernatorial elections or the other elections. But you have to look at where we were in mid-year. Last time, 2014, we had 10,271 that actually were new voter registrations. This year, almost 3 times that much, 31,345. And as I look across, and we'll be giving those to you, you will see those voter registrations are spread all over the state of Mississippi. So we're having a significant increase in people registering to vote, a very good sign. It's a sign that our candidates are working, that our information is going out, that people respect the fact that we've got thousands of our fellow neighbors in the Middle East fighting today. New voter registrations up 300%. Next one, please, ma'am. Absentee ballot counts, again, significant increases. We have gone from 25,000 in a mid-year, 25,395 to 50,571. 50,571. Those are ballot counts, absentee ballot counts. Now that is double what we would normally do here. It is not still a gubernatorial year. The election in which we elect the board of supervisors and the sheriffs and the gubernatorials, this would be a gubernatorial year 16. When Governor Bryant was elected, it was 112,000. So we're still running about half of what a gubernatorial year would be, but double what a normal mid-year election would be. Yes, ma'am.
Wasn't 2016 the presidential?
Yes, it was. That's correct.
And not
15
government.
would have been the gubernatorial.
15 is the gubernatorial, 16 is the presidential. You're exactly right.
We vote every year.
Thanks.
We were trying to use federal elections as a bar.
As a bar for where we are. And then this is the, you're right, on the presidential name. Thank you very much. Next one. That was when we were sworn in. I keep thinking of 16. All right, turnout in 16, 64%. Turnout in 14, 33%. That's of all registered voters is 1.8 million, roughly 1.8 million, and those are varying a little bit as we go on. 1.8 million registered voters, and we were looking at about a third in 14 and about 64% in 16. Now, what's also indicative of this is the fact that we have absentee ballots usually run about 4%, 4 to 5% of the vote. So you guys are all smart on your math, but if you're looking at 4 to 5% and you multiply that by 20 or 25 times of 50,000, you start to get an estimate of where we are on the ballot, on how many people would cast a ballot in Mississippi. Still, in order to get 50%, we would have to be around 900,000. And in a presidential election, we run about 63%. In gubernatorial elections, we run in the high 40s to 50%. Do we have another number there too?
No, sir.
Okay. We have, and we'll give out to y'all the total absentee count by county here. I would caution you that the circuit clerks are working day and night now, and they're entering these absentee ballots as we go. So when we tell you there were 50,000 ballots requested, and I think so much already have been returned, I'll give you that number, 38,483. And that's as of about 9 or 10 o'clock this morning. And they are heavily returning those. So we're getting like right away back 80% of all the ones we're sending out, and we'll end up being probably in the 90th percentile of people who requested a ballot actually send it back into our circuit clerks. So they're entering them now. We're a week out with these numbers. So they'll be very busy. You should anticipate they will increase significantly between now and next Tuesday. All right, I'll answer questions about what we're doing from anybody.
Tell me about poll monitoring. You know, there's been a lot of, let me say, unhappy people, a lot of debate and fierce campaigning. What concerns do you have? What precautions are being taken at the polling places?
We are, we're going to 30 counties from my office. In addition to that, Attorney General Hood will have people in additional counties, and I'll be strategically located around the state. We work with the Attorney General every year on these. Our 30 counties are picked geographically, so we will be throughout the state of Mississippi. Our people will not really be more than probably 45 minutes to an hour away from any polling station in the state, all 1,700 of them. Our clerks and our election commissioners, this is not their first rodeo. We have been working with them for years. We meet with them every Wednesday. We'll be meeting with them again to go over these absentee numbers and the issues that come up on election day. At this point in time, we're going through the machine checks all over the state of Mississippi. We're actually going in and doing our LNA testing, logic testing, so that all of our machines are zeroed out and ready to be cast. Our paper machines, which are in about 7 counties, are also being tested to go into effect. And all of those will be finished before next Tuesday, and they go into the actual precincts. Right now, according to our circuit clerks, we're getting ready, and we will be ready for next Tuesday. We see no problems with either machinery, poll locations, or anything else. I checked the weather, it's looking okay. As you know, we've had ice storms, we've had all kinds of stuff come up.
Don't even put that out there first,
Hurricanes,
man.
I know, but we don't have that, so.
Don't put that out there.
Weather is good enough, and if our absentee ballots, it's looking like we're gonna have a record turnout for a mid-year election.
Do you have a sentiment for why you think there's so much interest in this particular election?
There are, first of all, in my mind, the candidates and the issues drive the election. I've always thought that campaigns are decided around the kitchen table. I mean, if people are talking about it around the kitchen table, if they have a job, or mom got laid off, or whatever's going on, or things are not being funded, healthcare, the issues that we see, if those are being talked around the kitchen table, it usually reflects it in the ballot box. And I think they are. I think they're being talked around the kitchen table. The President of the United States has been to Mississippi, his family members have been to Mississippi. Very heavily, campaigns for Democrats have been here. We started planning, I would think in January, about this. We have rolled out Vote in Honor of a Soldier. We've already distributed 1,800 different yellow ribbons. I went to Kuwait to assist soldiers to cast their ballots, which we are just have been ignored. This is my second trip over there, actually, and having them cast their ballots. So we put a strong emphasis from our office, but really it comes back to the candidates, the issues, and the voter. The work that y'all do explaining we got an election is critical, but people have to look at those issues, and they have to talk around the kitchen table. A lot of our meetings, and I have been in I can't tell you dozens and dozens of schools, but a lot of our meetings are with the young people and asking them who you're going to vote for, and then asking them to ask their mom who they're going to vote for. So we're trying to start that discussion. And I think in the end it comes back to our candidates and our issues.
You had not too long ago, and you showed that figure at the beginning of the pretty low turnout in the primaries. Now you're expecting a pretty robust one. Would that be all that unusual to go from a primary to
It
general?
is, but it is not unusual to have a significant difference between the primaries and the general. And I'm not really sure why. The primaries are run by the parties. As you know, I've been opposed to the government running the party primaries. I think parties need to run theirs. You don't need to have the government involved in it. It goes all the way back to Washington, our first president. So when you think about that, they're party primaries. But for whatever reason, they seem to lose the interest of the fact that you're down to 2 after that, pretty much. You have other parties in Mississippi, but generally the ones that gather the most votes are 2 different parties. So somehow, between now and then, the discussions have increased. I mean, everybody's trying hard. The candidates are certainly working hard. You're seeing a lot of ads. You're seeing us work hard. The clerks are working hard, election commissioners. But somehow I think it's been historical, it's been this way, but I think it's larger this time than it has been in the past.
Are you concerned, okay, maybe rephrase that. Things that voters can and can't do inside a polling place. And one of the questions that seems to pop up often, taking pictures, cell phone use, things of that nature, and what voters need to know and know not to do.
Yeah, we have asked them specifically not to use the cell phones in place now, and I appreciate the fact that everybody wants to say, I'm showing themselves casting a ballot and whatever, I'm here voting. Those are good, healthy things. I'd ask you to take that picture out front and not while somebody's trying to cast a ballot. I mean, everybody's got to get to work. We open at 7 o'clock in the morning. People got to be at work by 7:30, 8 o'clock. They're trying to push through there, so don't use your cell phones. Then there were some security issues. Here's my ballot, and then I go outside, somebody gives me $5 for voting for somebody or whatever. So there were some security issues about that we preferred. But generally, this is a convenience and a common sense thing. It's just like when you go up to check out of the grocery store. Don't stand there talking on the phone while there's 3 people behind you and they're trying to get their milk and bread out of the grocery store. So we've asked people to use good common sense and not use their cell phones
Inside the polling booth,
That's
say
right.
the standing in line, showing a long line, that's cool, right?
That's fine, man. If they're outside and they're not disturbing anybody, that's fine.
Yes, sir.
On election day, what rubric are you guys going to use to determine, or should I say, at what point of the day will we know whether it's going to be a good turnout or a negative turnout, voter turnout?
Historically, we will again, we gather at 9 o'clock. I go out into the precincts myself and it varies around. Last time I was on the coast, but at 9 o'clock we have a telephone conference with our Assistant Secretary of State for elections, their staff. All 15, in 30 counties will be getting call-ins, usually about between 8:30 and 9:15. By 10 o'clock, we will give you a report on any issues that have come up, any voting issues, anything we've had to address. We'll make that public. In the interim, where we see some issues, we will either alert the district attorney or, if he's close enough, the Attorney General's office to go. We do not have prosecutorial authority, nor do I want it for the Secretary of State, so ours will be information gathering. And we also have a checklist that all of our people will have. And on that checklist is, did it open on time? Is there any problem in the precinct? Are all the machines working? Is it disability access available? I have a whole 2-page sheet that every one of these people will fill out on all 30 counties on election night.
So I guess my question is, at 9 o'clock, what numbers are we looking at to determine, whether or not folks are going to continue to go out to the polls or whether or not it's going to be a slow day?
Yeah, historically, our people, when they call in, we don't have a comparison. If I'm in the district in South Jackson, I can't tell you, we had 200 this time, we had 250 the last time. Most of the time, they will tell us something along the lines of it's light, it's moderate, or it's heavy. That's about the 3 ranges, because I don't know everybody's precinct by that level. And our people move between precincts. They'll be there at 6:30 when they open and watch the opening. They may stay till 7:30, go to another one at 8, and then call in at 9, that kind of thing. So we'll give you probably some light, moderate, heavy type designation, but not an accurate count. Yeah.
Are you concerned, is there anything you can do about the fact this is an unusual election with 2 Senate contests on the ballots and there are different rules for the 2? I mean, is there anything you can do about that, or is that just up to the candidates?
Well, the candidates too, but we put out the ballot as soon as the governor and the Attorney General and Secretary of State approved it. We put it on Facebook, but we monitor some of the conversations that come back to us, Bobby. And there are people, why is there no D behind one of the 3 candidates, or no R, or whatever? And we try to explain that to everybody. I think the press has been pretty good. This is basically, in Louisiana, they call it a jungle primary, but where there's no party designation. But we still find people that are a little bit confused about that. And I'm hopeful that y'all's good work will help us with some of that. It's on our website. We've been all over talking to everybody, but they'll still show up and say, I thought he was a Democrat, or I thought she was a Republican, or whatever. Yes, ma'am.
I know it's primarily in our federal elections that we see this kind of stuff, but can you talk to the security measures that the state takes to ensure that we have no breaches in people hacking into the voting system or anything like that for individuals that worry about their votes getting changed or those conspiracy
Yeah,
theories?
and there are 2 ones, and the dichotomy needs to be quite clear here. And somehow, either our press friends or our voter friends are kind of merging them together. First of all, in 7 counties, we have paper ballots, and those are counted and sent in. In the others, we have calculators. These are not hooked to the internet. So all of our other, whatever that is, 75 counties, have these machines that Secretary Clark and them bought with HEVA money in 2005. Those machines are not connected to the internet. So there's no way to hack into those particular machines. So we don't have, the greatest risk in losing your ballot is if you don't go cast it. If you go cast your ballot, it's going to be counted. Okay, that's number 1. The second part is that we have, and I went to Washington, I think I've explained this, but I'll go over it again quickly with y'all. I went and got a secret clearance with the Homeland Security, and I started there. First meeting, I think, was probably in January of this year. Since that time, I have had several different closed-circuited meetings with them at Homeland Security here in Mississippi. about threats to the system and continuing threats to our system. We get thousands and thousands of attempts to get into the statewide election management system. Not to change your vote, they want your financial information. They want to make sure that they get your last 4 digits of your social security number and your date of birth and whatever that information will be available. The legislature's been great to give us money to put in a series of firewalls. We've had them tested by outside vendors that I've hired with those monies. We've had them tested by inside, by the National Guard work with us. We are in a constant state of alert. I spend part of every single day on cybersecurity here. I briefed the governor on ours, and I'll let him discuss those issues, but our issues are not foreign to other parts of the state of Mississippi. So we're working hard on that part of it. The second part that is different is what these people put on Facebook or put on an email, that particularly this last week. I would so encourage you to vet that. Don't, because it just comes on Facebook, doesn't mean it's true. There is no filter except for the people here. Y'all are the filter. And I would encourage voters when they hear so-and-so had a DUI or some whatever they put out there, that those are not necessarily even your friends. It may not even be somebody from this country. If you look at Mueller's indictment, TENN_GOP was put out a lot of scurrilous things during the last presidential election about one side or another. It was the Russians. It was not the Tennessee Republican Party. So even when the names look familiar, it may not be one. So I would encourage people to divide the fact that there may be influences over social media to affect the way you cast a vote, or worse, that you don't cast a vote. They win if we don't cast a vote. That is different from trying to get into the actual digit of a ballot. So our ballots will be secure. The only way you lose it is not casting it. This other continues on. We worry about it, and I worry about it a lot. Yes, ma'am.
Back to the question about the way the ballot is set up. The state election commissioners a few weeks ago set the proposed or suggested Senate ballot, and it had both of the Senate races up at the top, followed by other races. But each county is allowed to set up the ballot the way it wants. Is that correct?
No, they have to put the Senate races at the top.
That was my question. So the Senate race will be at the top. Both of them will be at the top.
There would. There was actually
All across the state?
a Mississippi Supreme Court case on that.
Okay. So everywhere in the state,
Yeah, back in Roger Wicker's race.
everywhere in the state, those two races will be at the top.
It should be at the top. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that was my question.
You have projections on requests for absentee ballots, just confirmation. When will you know, have a full trend of how many absentee ballots have been cast?
We monitor it every day. I can give y'all another report about Friday. After that, our clerks are open Saturday, as you know, taking ballots in and everything. So I expect they'll be over the weekend or Monday doing the last of these. But I can give you another report by Friday, probably Friday, 4 o'clock. I'll get Leah to send something out to
Do you
y'all.
think Monday you'll have a firmer understanding of how many were cast? Is that true?
Yeah, we'll have how many were returned. It's
That's
the
what I
same
made
as
sure,
yes,
yeah.
sir. That's correct. We're at 39,000 right now. We're, and it's, see, from yesterday to today, it went up about 4,000. So, just from 2 days ago. So we'll give you a report on Friday about where you are, but you can do the math from that. If it's 4 or 5% absentee, you pretty much predict what the turnout will be.
Is there any particular area of the state that you're expecting greater turnout? Rural area versus urban, cities versus...
When I looked at
communities?
that, y'all will see these when she hands them out to you, but when I looked at those, they're up across the board. Harrison and Jackson are up, and the Delta's up. Registrations are. So I'm seeing this, there doesn't seem to be any geographical restriction to it. It seems to be that we are getting people all the way across the board, which is good, very good, actually. Other questions?
The 1.8 million number, how accurate is that? I mean, I'm not saying y'all are, I know y'all are limited in what you can do about it, but that's a county thing.
It is. the registration and purging are done by the election commissioners who are elected public officials and by the circuit clerks. You're dead right about that. I think it's right. It comes into the statewide election management system, and that's how many we have. Our group is usually within 24 or 48 hours, they're returning their ballots, they're putting people in. I mean, our circuit clerks work real hard, and I think the number is right.
So there's not any cases like there were 10, 15 years ago where you had a significant number of counties with more people on the record to vote.
It's talking about voting. age
No, and
population.
in the last, when I started, I think Emily had like 20 counties that had more registered to vote. She may have had the best number, but right now we're at one. I have been,
What
our
county is
staff
that?
has worked Humphreys. And you can call them if you want to and ask them why. So you should assume that I have already called there.
So you say in the 1.8, whatever it is, number, 1.8 million is, that's pretty close to it. I mean, I know it can't be perfect because things change every day, but that's close to.
It is. It is our total vote, and I don't think it's gonna change much. On Friday, if you want, I'll give you what our statewide election management system says, how many voters we have. We'll give you both that
I'll
total
send
as
that
well.
to y'all today. We've got the number we've got it, and I'll send it to y'all
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, and I think it's 1.8 something, and it moves a little bit. It's up now because of these registrations.
Just, do you know, I mean, I know you know. Explain, just go over it one more time. Who can, you're talking about the guy who voted in the Sand Dune. I mean, military people can vote electronically, is that right?
Yeah, through the FAP system and through UOCAVA.
Can other overseas residents?
Yes, members of the Foreign Service can do that as well.
But if I was a businessman living in London, I could.
As long as you're out of, you're out of country, you can.
So-
You can't be in country, you have to be out of country.
If you're out of the country,
There's the federal law is the UNICAVA law that allows you to cast ballots from overseas locations. You have to go through the federal system and eventually to the circuit clerks where we are.
you do that in state elections too.
Yeah, we do it. Secretary Clark was really a proponent of the military and overseas voting. That's what UNICAVA is, uniform. And I have picked it up since I've been here, and I have been also very strong. This was my second trip. The other one I went to Afghanistan and Iraq and Kuwait before. So I have emphasized that as well. And I will tell you, if y'all ever have the opportunity to be invited like I was to go, it's pretty spectacular what our men sitting in those briefings with General Boyles and listening to our first sergeants and our field commanders, our captains, majors, and lieutenant colonels out where they are and what they're doing. It's pretty spectacular. They are exceptionally professional. I mean, it comes across so well. I would tell you this, Bobby, when we did the survey about Mississippi businesses and what do they want in the workforce, what are you looking for an employee? The two things that came back were integrity and the ability to communicate. I'm telling you, hire somebody that's coming back. Because I don't know hardly anybody that has more integrity and more ability to communicate in tough environments, 115 degrees there, in a tough environment that's coming back here. Some of them have jobs like our guys coming back. We've held a position for him. Others are coming back without employment. You know, Captain Bird was one that we met here, a couple of other guys that want to apply to be conservation officers and whatnot, but they're coming back without jobs. But you want to hire somebody that's disciplined, has integrity, and ability to communicate in a tough situation. I got 3,200 of them that are in the Middle East today. So look at them when they come home. When they get home in April, everybody ought to look at them. If you're looking for a good employee, there's a good one right there.